We're live. Welcome to the second annual DAO Talk End of Year Spectacular, presented by Tally, presented by Charlotte Sports, Salt Lake City Sports, and wherever CHG is in the world. McDonald's vegan options. Welcome. How's everybody doing?
Good. Excited to be here for the second annual end of year spectacular DAO Talk season 2 finale.
Frisian?
Sup?
He doesn't even know what I asked him.
What did you ask?
I said, how are you feeling, and how do you feel about the second annual DAO Talk End of Year Spectacular presented by Tally?
I feel really good about it. It's been an incredibly stressful year, but also a really good year. And so, yeah, happy holidays, everyone. I got my reindeer hat on, Santa hat times. I'm back in the trenches. So, yeah, feel good.
Yeah. Some housekeeping out of the way. This will be the last episode of DAO Talk Weekly until January 19th, which is like the second-ish week of January. I guess not.
Which
really,
is my birthday.
There we go.
Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. The season 3 premiere of DAO Talk Weekly will coincide with CHG's birthday. So extra excitement to look forward to there. We have a lot of really cool stuff coming, bringing in a producer to help kind of up the level of the pod, from the audio to the clips to the video to the listeners to live events. So we're looking forward to that. It's going to be a great season 3 of DAO Talk. Every year we just make it a little bit better. Yeah, so if you've been with us since the beginning, thank you for sticking with us. But yeah, so for DAO Talk End of Year, the second annual DAO Talk End of Year Spectacular presented by Tally, we're going to start with a little game. I know the answer to this game, but I want CHG and Frisian to guess. So I have the top 3 episodes by just pure viewer listenership, not including interviews, because the interviews are generally skewed when it comes to listens, because it's just like a lot of times these people have this like very hardcore followings. So like we had David from Valerie and like Steph from Govern, RIP. And now Oasis, which is a conference down in the Bahamas coming up in a month. Check that out. But the top 3 weekly episodes, I'm going to give you the 3 titles, and I'm going to tell you what happened in them in the month they happened. And you guys, I need you to guess which one do you think was the most listened to. So funny enough, the top 3 episodes were, one was in January, one was in July, and one was in November. So pretty like consistent across the board. In terms of like top listenership, and I'm wondering if we think like maybe we can discuss why we think that, because could be title, could be like topic, but okay. So in January we had World Economic DAO Forum. What we talked about was the World Economic Forum releasing a like massive DAO report in the middle of the bear, which is pretty sweet. Coordinape had a bunch of issues with Bankless DAO. And then that was when we announced the return of the Tally newsletter with CHG at the helm. So that was in January. In July, we had Do You Even Decentralize, Bruh? We had the bulk of the episode was Frisian having like a gigabrain take on roll-up governance and why on-chain governance is the future. That kind of went crazy in the streets and kind of kickstarted, I feel like, the rest of the year. And then QuestBooks had some grant proposals for the Arbitrum DAO. That's just about when the Arbitrum DAO was starting to kick off and get its first RFPs and proposals from the ecosystem. That was in July. And then in November, a couple weeks ago, we had 2 Zooms and a Boom, where we were talking a little bit more unstructured, where we talked about our opinions on what we think the most influential DAO of all time to this day obviously was. That was the first little musings of the bull market being back, which I feel like that was kind of correct, at least for this like little mini bull run we're having right now. And then talking and predicting what we think the biggest protocol, or how many protocol airdrops will be in Q1 of 2024. So we have World Economic DAO Forum, Frisian's Giga Take, Do You Even Decentralize, Bruh, kind of like just talking about on-chain governance, and then 2 Zooms and a Boom, where we had this new format that we've been doing where we just kind of conversationally talk. So CHG, I'll start with you. Which one do you think was the most listened to?
Dude, I didn't even know this question was coming up, but I was doing my side research, and I was thinking the "Do You Even Decentralize" was gonna be the most listened to episode of the year without
Actually,
even knowing. Yes, without even knowing the
okay, so
top
that's your
three. So that's definitely
vote.
my top. I'm going that one, and then the November one, and then the January one, because I wasn't in that one.
Okay,
Probably. Yeah.
Frisian, Frisian, you're muted.
I'm going 2 Zooms and a boom. Just because I feel like that meme hits with the people.
You made that
All right,
meme,
ready for the
dude.
review?
Humble man.
Yeah, I might be patting
But
myself
yeah.
in the back there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, so the reveal. Number three coming in. They're all separated by 4 listens, so they're all relatively close.
Okay.
The listener data is proprietary information, so we will not share the actual amount of listens. But coming in at -4 in third place is "Do You Even Essentialize, Bruh?" Sorry, CHG, you lose. Coming in at number 2, -1 listen. 2 Zooms and a boom. And coming in at 1, I think it's a little unfair because we piggybacked off of one of the largest economic institutions in the world, World Economic DAO Forum. If you remember back then, I do a little bit. That was like a massive thing that happened in the DAO ecosystem, like middle of the bear, kind of like a indication that a lot of large players in the World Economic Forum, for lack of a better word. That's a great name for an organization, by the way. We're thinking about decentralized governance and on-chain governance and protocols, and just like decentralized organization in general outside of like on-chain. So pretty interesting to see looking back on those 3 episodes. I wonder if the titles play a role in them. Maybe it's just cool to see like a kind of like a side effect of doing this podcast, like looking back on the year and kind of seeing the different narratives throughout the year and seeing them kind of have like a very natural progression until where we are now. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on just like how, I know, Frisian, you said like the year's been crazy, but how are you feeling about like 2023 and maybe even like the OG days of DAO Talk and where we are now? We're coming up on almost 2 years of doing it. Where we are, where we're going, how you feel about it all. And then we can kind of talk about the next part of the second annual DAO Talk End of the Year Spectacular, 2% Vitality.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for DAO Talk. I think, the fact that we did it every single week, sometimes multiple times a week through the entire bear market. Basically, it started at like right near when ETH bottomed, and we've just gone every single week since then is I think really powerful and definitely helped me get through the bear market. Hopefully help some of you out there as well. I think we need to evolve now though. Like the game has changed, right? I think we're entering another period where there's going to be a lot of sort of net new people entering the space, and we need to level up to kind of meet them. So yeah, that's where I'm at with DAO Talk right now.
And we're going to level up, fam. Don't you worry out there, dear listener. CHG, thoughts? As the fresh blood into DAO Talk, thank you for bringing us and taking us to another level. How you feel? How do you feel about joining? How's it been? How's this experience been? People love you.
Oh, that's sweet. It's been cool to go from like a loyal DAO Talk listener to like a host. That's such a rare, weird experience. And also it's a lot easier than I thought, actually. The first few podcasts we recorded, I wrote like notes for ages and I was like shitting myself that I was gonna say something weird. But it's been cool that over time, like the vibe of the pod is not scripted at all. It's like truly our off the cuff thoughts for better or worse,
For better or worse.
which is like a special part of DAO Talk that I think the listeners appreciate, and I definitely appreciate in terms of mass amount of prep. It's actually cool to be able to like share honest thoughts that aren't so well thought out. I've tried to get into podcasts this year also. Well, basically I've tried to get out of true crime podcasts because I was getting sort of an addiction. So I've listened to so many, and so many sound like they just like read a block of text that they wrote. It's sort of like, whoa, I feel like no one would ever say that word, or like that was you start to notice these like uh weird things, especially once you start podcasting yourself, of like that would never happen. Anyway, so yeah, DAO Talk is really special. I also think the like listener base is sick. It's really cool to be able to like discuss the content of DAO Talk on Twitter right after and before it's published with people who listen to the show. It's like a conversation, which is really unique to DAO Talk. So feeling good as well.
Cool. Yeah, speaking of our listener base, our top 3 countries, number 1 is the United States. Number 2 is Spain. Interesting enough, which I'm not sure why. And number 3 is Ireland. Shout out Polar.
Dude, Paul's
I think
holding
one of
it
our most
down.
loyal.
Not only is that just Paul tapping in every week, but he's like an Ireland crypto influencer. He got some other Irish people onto the DAO Talk game.
Is Paul public knowledge, that name?
More or less, I think. As it, like people that know.
Okay. So we're good to say it.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. As long as it's on the TL. Yeah. Yeah, and we have a bunch of like also Japan's pretty big, which is interesting. Shout out like the DAO Tokyo fam out there. That was also this year. DAO Tokyo was this year, which is pretty cool. So, all right, going into favorite moments, I'll kind of lead the way. We're gonna go favorite moment of the year in regards to DAO Talk, whatever, and then the craziest moment, and then our biggest DAO prediction of the year, and they'll kind of wrap it up. My favorite moment, I'll lead the way, was the New York event, which was around Masari mainnet, but I think everyone realized like Masari mainnet is not really the shit. So we're gonna have all these side events, and we had a really great event with the Uniswap Foundation, who we talk about pretty often on DAO Talk as one of the main players in the Uniswap DAO. That's where I met a lot of DAO Talk listeners and a lot of people who are friends of Tally, interested in Tally, want to work with Tally, thinking about decentralized governance, kind of seeing the missionaries, the people who are actually, we talk about it every week, but putting pen to paper, putting their shit on chain, and actually putting their money where their mouth is. So we love talking every week, but it's also like the reason we're able to do unscripted conversations and talk about all this, like she mentioned, is because we're talking about it basically 24/7. Sometimes we need to scale that back because it's too much, but it's been really cool to see, especially since the impetus or the beginning of DAO Talk, it grow into a turbo niche, a little bit less turbo niche. We're getting a little bit bigger. We're starting to meet people in person, and we're going to kind of expand upon that in 2024 season 3. But that's sort of my favorite moment. It doesn't. You guys' favorite moments don't have to be related to us. It could just be like, what's the biggest moment you think of 2023? Like the World Economic DAO Forum was pretty sweet. What do you guys think? CHG, we can start with you.
Yeah, mine was the Arbitrum Security Council elections, because I think it was a really big moment for Tally. It was a really big moment for Arbitrum, and it was a really big moment for like all of the space. We've talked a lot about. I'm like fully obsessed with, now that Frisian sent me this tweet. But John Charbonneau's proof of authority versus proof of governance, where proof of governance is like sort of earned authority rather than just given, or like elected authority. And that really played out in a cool and sort of new-ish way for Arbitrum Security Council. And I think they set a precedent a really long time going forward. I think we'll see a lot more elected security councils. It's been cool to chat about that in person with people and online about like what an elected security council means. I've felt a little like it's nice when you see an unelected security council and you can be like, you know what would be more decentralized, and you have actual proof that something works. It's not just like a meta like decentralization maxi governance idea. So yeah, that was my favorite moment. I'm really stoked on that. I don't think there's been emergencies yet, but there could be. And it'll be cool the like every 6 month thing to see how that plays out. Especially as the Arbitrum DAO grows. And the first time around it was largely right like early people early to the DAO sort of getting in there, especially the off-chain labs people, obviously super qualified to get in there. But it'll be interesting as time goes on, especially as some of those roles become like full-time jobs. Like being a steward of multiple DAOs and stuff. So I'll go with that one.
I think for better or worse, the governance moves relatively slow. Something I tweeted about yesterday is maybe kind of finding ways to speed it up in some areas. And I think some ways it needs to be slow, and that's a pro of it. But also there's some ways we can make it, a little bit faster and more entertaining. But Frisian, favorite moment of the year, hit me.
I'm gonna cheat and hit on a theme real quick, which is just people getting paid or being able to contribute and getting paid for it in DAOs, and just like airdrop season, right? Like I'm old school. I love airdrops. I don't want to hear any airdrop slander on the TL. So like just call it a few examples, right? There's obviously the Arbitrum DAO launch. Then there is Celestia, which we don't support yet because we don't have like the infra to support Cosmos DAOs, but you never know. In the future, like, a lot of people made a lot of money off that airdrop, including like devs, right? They kind of set the standard for airdropping to people who've made technical and open source contributions to the ecosystem in the past. And then I'll shout out Optimism's, like the Optimism Collective in general, and just the amount of like grants and retro PGF and everything that they funded. There's a lot of people that, got paid for their contributions in that world. The Arbitrum STIP program like really juiced up incentives in the Arbitrum DAO. Nouns, I think, I think continues to be like an experiment in funding people. So I just think like, DAOs were actually these big on-chain treasuries, a really important way that people made it through the bear market. And I want to see that 10x. That's not good enough. I want to see that 1000x. People getting paid via DAOs, including airdrops, grants, retro PGF, incentives, all of the above. I want that to 1000x minimum in 2024.
That's not cheating. That's probably the best answer in my opinion. Yeah, cool. All right. Let's get a little crazy. Craziest moment of the year, in my opinion, when I think craziest, I feel like there's so much shit that happens. It's kind of like we were talking about before we got on air. Like, it's hard to remember even a week ago because so much shit happens. It's the cliche in crypto, time moves slow but so fast. For me, I think it was the Uniswap vote on like picking a bridge to use, and A16Z just fucking unloading their entire governance clip, like not even hiding their bias in it, which I guess is they have to do. But I think it was just crazy because one, the commute, like it was the first time, maybe not ever, but like for me, it was like the biggest response I've seen from the community, from like a grassroots level of like, hold on a second, what the fuck's happening here? And then also like A16Z setting the precedent of all their other votes, like only using a partial amount of their total like delegated power, and then just being like, actually, here we're going to use everything we possibly have to potentially sway this vote. And then obviously, like, I don't know what was happening internally with their workings, but I will give them credit. They did it in the beginning of the process so people could respond. What it would have been even crazier is if they waited till like an hour before the vote was going to end and just unloading their clip. Then they probably would have been able to pass it, since governance participation is usually pretty low. But crazy in the sense of like, what the hell were they thinking? Maybe it was like a giga brain move, and also crazy because it was like really cool to see the entire community activate, and you kind of got a glimpse of what's possible with governance in this community.
I'll do an honorable mention to the blast situation. Um, I think blast is if you read about I think that whole situation is a testament just to like the weird specificity of the crypto community and what's received well and not well. And also like the positives of bad press, you know? You see like the crazy TVL, but then it's also like, you know, like one of the most I guess like hated on events of the year, that had maybe one of the best outcomes, at least, you know, at the beginning. If you read about the like in depth, it's like the founders are really well experienced, but this just didn't go according to planned reception, I guess. That one's crazy. And I also think it's quite funny. The awards substantial thing is something I'll never forget. And I reference like to my non crypto friends, you know? Okay, but then my main one I think is the nouns fork, which is why I'm repping a nouns hat, and I have that hat. But yeah, I just think that one's crazy. I think when you work out the math on it, it's like if you fork with 99 people when there's whatever it is, 500 nouns, that means 20% of forked, so 20% can walk away with the treasury. And at the time when the fork was happened slash was just about to happen, that was $54 million. So just like the upside of forking was crazy, and I can't believe that happened. And I also thought it was a uh what do you call something if it like it's a new thing, but I'm not sure anyone else is gonna ever copy it ever again. It's a precedent that may never be followed, I guess. Um so yeah, crazy stuff in the DAO world. And also I like that it was like something big and new and potentially not going to work and experimental in the bear market. Gotta respect that.
I like that it punished people for abandoning like autonomy over their assets. So like it's like, okay, yeah, just like send your ETH over here. We'll hang on to it for a while. You'll get it back later, and then just like everything but ETH just giga pumped. So everyone who did that is just like sitting there like coping to the extreme about not having access to their assets, right? Yeah, I think that can be a theme. Like, you know, I've talked about this before, but it's like when we go into next year, there's gonna be a lot of things that like pump, right? It's like, where's the alpha, right? There's probably a lot of pieces to that, but I think assets where you retain autonomy and there's some sort of like trustless guarantee that like you aren't going to get rugged, or at least it's like known what the rug vectors are, that's transparent, right? So things like, you know, whatever, like burning the, you know, the key to the LP, and even like ideally having some kind of like on-chain, you know, token level control over the treasury and the smart contracts, and just like, yeah, basically the token holders having sort of like you know, autonomous control over the like like the related smart contracts and sort of assets. I think that's what's going to outperform, right, next year. Like if you're like a degen out there like full time, or you have like a fund, right, and you just like made that part of your strategy, it's like, we're going to develop a system for auditing these like shit coins, or just like strategies in general, for ones where it's like there's clearly sort of a level of thought and craft put into sort of token holder level autonomy, and then you match that up with the other things you're doing for analysis, like strength of community and like potential of the meme, the fundamental potential of the project, et cetera, et cetera. I think you're going to outperform. So yeah, don't send your money to a multi-sig and that won't give it back to you. Just don't do it.
Wise words from Frisian. I agree with him completely. All right, last little bit of this end of year spectacular big DAO prediction of 2024. My prediction is we're gonna see a few large traditional S&P 500 companies start to create narratives or explore publicly decentralized organization. I don't know exactly which ones. I think there's obviously some that are ripe for that, but I think we start to see some increased public. I think it's already happening behind the scenes, but I think we start to see some public displays of approval, whether it be explicit or implicit, of these organizations to start to explore decentralizing or just like DAO reports in general. I think we're a while away from like actual like initiatives happening, but for instance, like the World Economic DAO Forum, I think we start seeing some of that from some large companies that we wouldn't expect, especially as the market goes crazy in 2024, as I predict as well. So looking forward to that. CHG prediction.
I've said this a few times before, so maybe it's just like hope, but I reckon by the end of 2024, delegates being paid will be the norm. This seems like the way of the world, and it's like the personal advice I guess I've given to like my friends in DAOs or in that position where it's like, should we pay people? I keep saying like, one, I think that you should pay people because it is a big job, and you want your governance to be of that standard. But also, I just think that's the way of the world. Like, the vibes are there that that's what's going to happen. I think Maker set a precedent with this like a long time ago. I know a few DAOs pay delegates in sort of like some ways or another. But I think by the end of 2024, delegates getting paid will be the standard, and it'll be like a public, like formulaic payment, not just like, oh, they wrote a big proposal, let's chuck it under the table. And I think the payment could come in a variety of ways. I think like the tally proposal rewards is one way that it could play out, which is exciting to play a role in that. But it could also look like a salary. It could also look like, I don't know, salary according to a rubric that I guess like participation per month. But that's my big prediction. Also, a base schools DAO launch. Definitely one of those as well. Keep your goal, Tommy.
There's going to be a DAO where the like treasury assets under management, like the total market cap of the assets that are controlled by the DAO, that would be in the Fortune 500 by market cap.
I like that. This is a very succinct prediction. Fuck yeah. Cool. I'm going
That's
to
probably soft,
write all these
honestly.
down.
I probably need to upgrade that. I don't know if the Fortune 100 is in a thing. Hold on.
The Fortune 1, the best company.
Let me see what like the smallest company in the Fortune. Okay, the smallest country in the Fortune 100 is American Express at 134 billion. Yeah, I'll say Fortune 100. That's about what's on my mind. Is like 100 billion plus.
Damn.
Yeah, and we're pretty far away from that today because the only assets that have this are L1s and stablecoins. And like most L1s aren't governed by DAOs. It's more like, an open source code that's governed by forks, hard forks and soft forks. And then stablecoins, like currently, it's sort of not DAO managed, like the asset backing. Although I think that would actually be quite interesting if they were. It'd probably need to be some sort of like hybrid, on-chain, off-chain DAO thing with like legal stuff worked into it. But I don't think that will be the path. I think like one of these like DAO controlled protocols like Arbitrum or Optimism or Uniswap, or one that hasn't launched yet, where where the basically like the more or less like the value of their governance token exceeds 100 billion. It would have to exceed it by a lot, because usually there's only like X% of the treasury is in X% of the FTV is actually in the DAO treasury. So yeah, so that's probably pretty bold, but yeah, I'll say Fortune 100. So like 100 billion plus. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Oh, we're going to revisit these. Don't you worry, dear listener, in season 3. Hopefully with, wow, we were too soft on prediction. We should have gone way more bullish than that, but we'll revisit those in season 3. All right, friends. Thank you for joining us for the second annual DAO Talk End of Year Spectacular. As always, subscribe to the Tally newsletter. Links below to everything we're going to talk about. And we'll link the most popular episodes if you want to go back and listen to those. Something I've realized going through the past episodes is a lot of them are Lindy, and they're good, listens if you need to backlog or learn something specific or remind yourself about something specific that happened in the ecosystem. The title themselves usually give an idea of what we talked about, so go check those out. And we'll see you in January in about a month for the season 3 premiere. We're really excited about what we got coming. Yeah, peace.
Peace.
Peace.